maybe we can even segue that Diallo was right in terms of Boyce know exactly what the hell he's doing. He knows very clear the things that he's saying he don't even believe in according to his written word. So here's a clip of. Wait, go ahead.
But the clip, I don't know. Do we need to? I think we need to get the ordering correct here, because this clip comes at is most recent, and I'm right. In terms. So just to quickly be clear, we noted the other day on our EYL pop up that Boyce had. Is this the right order? That Boyce had, without naming me, called me out by playing a 90-second clip from a discussion I had with Black Men Build, and then started distorting it. Mm-hmm. He, since then, has... So, and I thought it was very interesting, because some of the criticism I got from that show was, why do you keep responding? Why do you keep bringing this up? Why do you keep... In fact, somebody said you keep beating the dead horse of buying power. And my response was that's sort of the point of my work, that you're telling me I'm beating the dead horse, but it's others who keep dragging these dead horse carcasses in and throwing them on my feet, saying buying power. I'm like, that's the dead carcass. I'm trying. So so my point is, they keep, as is Boyce, as is the case here, Boyce keeps, and others keep throwing out the mythology, and in this case, throwing it directly, I guess indirectly to me by referencing. So now, what was now I can't remember the order now. So then because before this video clip, then he goes back. So after we did the show the other day, he goes back on Twitter and starts again reposting that clip saying, I disagree with this PhD and this, that, and the third. And that's it. So I went and I saw that on Twitter and sent in sort of an extensive series of responses. Mm-hmm. We can go back. I don't know if we want to show, I don't know, but but basically just saying, you didn't really engage my work. You're being disingenuous. Check the work. You claim you're being a scholar. You're not being a scholar. And then, so I wrote this one quick statement that I would like, and then we can move on to his clip. Cause this is what I was basically trying to say and am still saying. Boyce's disingenuousness is most on display when he, on one hand, waives his PhD in economics to claim authority, but then on the other claims a kind of radicalness by not working in the academy and charging his Black audience to take his classes. So that was because part of what he did was, after I challenged him on Twitter, because last week I signed up for subscribe to his whatever, I get his emails now. I get his email blasts. And I noticed that immediately he on the one hand, his one little or two little responses to me on Twitter are in this vein of, why are you being so aggressive? Why are you being angry? Why are you saying, and then he even says at one point, why are you saying that one of us has to be wrong? Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, but you said I was wrong. And then don't explain it. And I'm not even, so I'm like, what do you even, but then I noticed, and he sends out this email blast in which he says, and I put this on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere, where he writes his email to his subscribers and he's saying, sign up for my $299 class. And then, by the way, secondly, here's this video clip of me responding to this PhD who says we don't have any money. So I put out another state and I said, oh, so I see. So this is the disingenuousness. You call me out without calling me out. You don't engage the work. You claim in some, without responding to my criticism, you just say, oh, you just being mad. And then you go back and use this to promote to your students, your subscribers, why they should, this is why they need to pay for your class. So this is the point I'm getting at here with my point that on the one hand, you waive this PhD that you got from, as he made us very well aware, the current chair of economics at Cornell University, who is not actually the chair anymore, but he's still in the department there apparently. So you praise this very white professor and this very white Syracuse University degree, and you wave it and say this is what gives you your authority. But then you leave the academy under whatever circumstances, and then use that as more bona fides and claims and cachet around why you are more authentic and real. But then you go back to your community and charge them to take classes. So I was saying, wait, so first he would do better for his community by taking a good job and the resources that come from the academy, and then giving his people what he thinks they need for free. For instance, if anything, that has been my preferred approach. Instead of going on some fantasy about I don't need a job, or we don't need to be employed, or I don't want to work for the white man, it makes more sense to me that we get jobs. We use the degrees we've earned and get jobs, and then do as Dr. Joy James has argued all the time. We got to get into her new book, by the way, on Angela Davis. And use those resources that you get to take them back to the community. That's her whole point. Get the resources from these institutions back to your community, and not in a way that charges them more money, because apparently your target. And then, okay, so all right, it was beyond hypocrisy to refuse employment, dismissing the academy as too white or too conservative, when it is the very institution from which you claim your academic status and authority. Secondly, this contradiction spits in the face of the tradition of the radical autodidact, or scholars without portfolio, who work tirelessly to learn what is needed to help their people, and who then would be more deserving of charging for their work. How you have situated yourself reflects the poverty of your analysis and shamefulness of your behavior. In the end, you disrespect every tradition of intellectualism, scholarship, and brotherhood. So my point there specifically, as we approach John Henrik Clarke's birthday, for instance, instead of, who didn't get his PhDs and all this stuff until later in life, instead of doing what they did, those who were forcibly kept out of the academy, forcibly kept, and did all of the American Negro academies and the Cornells and all those traditions, and the Schomburgs and all of the, who create all of these extra institutional spaces for Black radical analysis to dissent. Those are people who would be more legitimate in going to the community and saying, I need whatever support you can offer because I don't have a job. It was James Turner that brought in Doc Ben and Dr. Turner to give them a little bit of a break and some resources and some health care that they could then be rewarded for their years of service without such, but then have resources that they could continue to bring back to their community. So in other words, this whole, never mind my work and what he doesn't even get into, what he gets wrong there. It's this is what's bothering more than anything. He's misrepresenting everything from what real academics and scholars do, even tirelessly within these institutions, and this autodidact tradition that radical Africans have been, that is really the basis of Black studies in the first place. So all of that it is just so wildly hypocritical before we even get to whatever is the substance of his arguments or claims against me. He's just completely disrespecting his own audience, these traditions, and on top of that, he's wrong. All right. So I just wanted to give some of that context before I pull up this, because then you said he went live yesterday while I was live here, and I was like, man, I was like, I'm not watching this whole thing. So I'm glad you put this together. I have not even watched it yet. So is there anything you want to say before I play it? Or
no? So this is pretty much he spent an hour live talking about a book he haven't read, basing his argument off of what he thought you said in the clip, which he's sure he might not know. And I broke it down as much as I can without, getting the substance. But this is a edited, I think 6 minutes of the clip of an hour.
All right, thank you for doing it. I appreciate you.
professor named Jared Ball, who I respect, who made a remark that I just can't say I agree with. However, I think rather than beefing and arguing about it, I would just provide some perspective on it to help you understand what's going on. This is the dilemma that we're dealing with, right? And I want to gingerly and respectfully talk about this brother. He's a scholar at, I think, Morgan or something like that. I forgot his name. Man, I feel bad. I don't, because people get mad and they get all offended and stuff. I don't have his name in front of me, to be honest with you. I put his video on my Instagram though. He kind of just seemed to say Black people don't have any money, and because he felt that Black people don't have any money, that this undermines any false idea in his mind that your economics and your investing can lead to your freedom and your liberation as Black people. Now, I suspect I understand kind of where he's coming from on this. I'm not going to presume to understand everything that's in his head. I have not read his book. I think that it's a perspective that should be considered, but I'm going to lay out another perspective for you to consider. And he came in guns blazing. You wave around all your credentials, Dr. Watkins, like you, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, man, come on, man. Like really, we're scholars. We ain't got to be rappers, dude. We don't have to beef. You ain't got to beef with me to get respect. Like, stop that, man. Come on. Like, let's learn from each other, right? I think that we should learn from each other. Give me a yes if you think that Black people should find ways to disagree agreeably. Like, give me a yes if you think that we'd be a better community if we could find ways to talk about different ideas without making it into a nigga beef. Right? Like, that's what it becomes. It becomes like we're not gangster rappers. We don't have to do this. Well, then you might as well say, hey, I'm team white people because they have the money. Walmart has distribution channels where they can charge you $2 for a pair of socks. A Black-owned business can't do that because they can't lower their prices that low without going out of business. As soon as they get here, they're like, okay, we can't go get money in this neighborhood because they won't let us come in there. The Cubans won't let us come in. The whites won't let us come in. The Jews won't let us come in. Oh, but the Black people, we can come in and take their money because not only do they have lots of money, but they're loose with their money. And also they're under the illusion that they don't have any money because you're trained to believe that you ain't got nothing when you got everything. You are the golden goose. The wealth of this country was built on your back. How are you going to say Black people ain't got no wealth when America would have no wealth if it were not for Black people?
So he yes just doesn't understand do y'all wealth understand creation. What I'm saying? I thought he had a PhD
America,
in economics.
The wealth of America was built on Black people. So how the hell are you going to tell me Black people ain't got no wealth? We've made everybody rich except for ourselves because we're Dorothy with the silver slippers. And I'm trying to help y'all just go down the yellow brick road and stop believing in the Wizard of Oz because the Wizard of Oz is full of shit.
Wow.
Every solid Black family is a multi-million-dollar asset if you learn how to extract the value from that asset. You get the kids on code. You teach them how to work together. Most wealthy families do that. The Rothschilds, when the Rothschilds were trying to develop wealth and power, when the first Rothschild was broke and trying to figure out how to build wealth, he had 5 sons. And what he did with those 5 sons was first thing he taught his sons is ain't nothing more valuable than family. Here's the thing about economic liberation. I don't know if I see a world where all Black people are going to ever be liberated. I just don't. I think there's too much propaganda, too much white control of media that Black people consume. A lot of people that listen to people like me or Dr. Claude Anderson, but there's far more people who do not, right? And I wish those people the best. I don't know what the solution is going to be for the masses of those people. But what I can propose to you is a solution that does work for you, right? I can propose to you something that you can do for yourself with your family right now, no matter how poor you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what you're working with, that will put you in a position where you will achieve some degree of liberation. It does not mean everybody's going to be liberated. It does not mean you're going to control the world. But what it does mean is that you can at least be fortified enough that people aren't going to come in and use their economic power to slap you around like a little bitch. Black-owned businesses, you are still, for the most part, in the building stage. Now, in a generation, some of these businesses are going to be multi-billion, maybe even a $1 trillion company at some point. It's going to take capital. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of time. You wouldn't even see it. It's completely unfathomable. So what I want you to do before I let you go is I want you to understand and take a moment to go with me and try to imagine the unimaginable. Try to fathom the unfathomable. Try to just imagine that there are some raggedy ass Black-owned businesses. They can't pay a living wage hardly, that can barely stay capitalized, that can barely keep their doors open. And some of these businesses in 50 years, maybe 100 years, are going to be worth billions of dollars, maybe even trillions. Because that's what happened in the history of America. And again, I'm not trying to disagree with what the brother said, right? Look, seriously, I suspect, I know that there are individuals that speak on issues like justice and the politics and changing laws and stuff like that. And I get all that. I respect all that. But I can say honestly that I don't identify as readily with the aspect of the Black Power movement that leans left, right? That leans toward communist, socialist ideas as a solution. I'm not a fan of that, to be honest with you. I'm not a capitalist, but I'm not really a socialist, but I can read ideas from Marxism and I can appreciate the Marxist critique of capitalism. Absolutely. If you ever want to, learn a little bit, go read what Karl Marx said about capitalism. I think every critique he made was 100% correct. If you simply tell me Black people have no money and Black people can't get liberation through money and then do a full stop, I don't know what else to do with it. But again, I'm open to being proven wrong.
Yo, I appreciate the edit, but I gotta blame you, Geechee. Look, I gotta say, man, look, this has to be your edits, man. You had to edit that into making him sound as contradictory and confused as I'm sure if we watch that entire thing unedited, it will be much more clear. So let's just be fair to the good doctor on that one.
Before I let Diallo go, I am convinced, not only for the video, but I read his article or his published article, and I saw him on Dr. Mayat's show a year or so ago, and I posted a DIY voice critique, do-it-yourself voice critique, where he literally says something, contradict himself, and all the way down. It's almost 18 minutes. Is on YouTube and Facebook. So even if you don't edit it, I'm telling you, it's going to run just like that. Like it's not going to even. So again, I am firmly in support of Diallo's analysis of this dude is definitely intentionally doing this. So I believe first you take the Jared approach, then when he do the shit he do, and now you got to come with the Diallo approach. So go ahead, Diallo.
I'm sorry, Diallo. Just one quick thing, because I think you're right, but I just want to be clear. If anybody hasn't seen what I said on Twitter or Instagram, I would encourage you to just to confirm that what he said about my behavior is entirely disingenuous and fraudulent. And I even said to him at one point that, because he said that, why are you coming at me like we're beefing rappers? And I said, we're not beefing rappers. I'm asking you as a scholar to defend your argument. So that was the tone and the tenor of my approach. It was just to say, explain yourself. And he did what he did. So, all right, go ahead, Diallo.
This does take me to the pop-up when y'all were trying to role model appropriate behavior for me about being respectful of shitty people. And I love how he said, I respect Dr. Ball, and then proceeded to shit all over your scholarship. So now I'm learning. So now I'm learning, y'all tried to tell me and it didn't really, I'm a kinesthetic learner. So when I see it done, so I now I'm understanding what y'all saying about respect. So yeah, I respect Dr. Boyce Watkins, Dr. Joyce, Dr. Boyce, But let me say this as well, because they play both sides of the fence, which I'm surprised we haven't really brought up. They play both sides of the fence on this issue, because they'll just as readily talk about the wealth gap and the entrenched, institutionalized, multi-generational poverty, just as soon as they'll talk about the trillions of dollars that circulate through our fingers. So they don't really care about the economic status of Black people. They care about their own economic status. And they seek to extract from Black people. They talk about the Koreans or the Jewish business owners or the Arab business owners in our community, not because they want there to be no exploitation in our community, economic exploitation. They bring these individuals up because they seek to replace them. They see those individuals as their competition. If someone comes to tell you, I'm not left or right, I'm not capitalist or socialist, they are a deceiver. That literally means I'm a hollow shell. I'm a hollow as fuck, and I want you to fill me up with your money. So when you really dissect his arguments and his methods, it's purely to say there should be a class of black people who replace the other people who exploit us. So we want to go into business and get entrenched in these certain, we want to take over this economic niche. We want to take over this economic niche. That's why they ignore the wealth gap and the economic exploitation of Asians amongst Asians, Jewish people amongst Jewish people, Arab oligarchs and the Arab masses, because they don't care about that economic exploitation. They're only saying that it's not fair that non-African people are wedged in a position to exploit African economics. So, I mean, in all honesty, if you take off the veil of giving a fuck, which he demonstrates he don't really give a fuck, if you take off that veil, that cover, you really see that most of these individuals are trying to replace these parasites. They're trying to displace these people, and they don't want to upend the system. He's not a socialist. He's not a leftist. What?
He's a solutionist. He's a solutionist.
He's a propagandist. He's a propagandist. And you're like, listen, there's no solution in the left or the right, socialism or capitalism. Then what does that leave besides him? Besides him. And if you really agree with Marx's critique of capitalism, but you're not anti-capitalist, then that makes you a bad person. I mean, I don't know what else to say. That was, I would like to believe that this is Geechee's clever editing tricks and camera tricks, that this is somehow Geechee able to splice his words together. But I think Geechee did him a service to represent his views and highlight. Those were good highlights of his position. But there's been too many times, we have too many examples. And then finally, for him to bring up the Rothschilds and talk about trillion-dollar black corporations, but he's not a capitalist. When literally all of your solutions not only lead people towards capitalism, but fully depend on maintaining capitalism. I mean, the Rothschilds with chevrons. So he thinks that the Rothschilds are wealthy because they had strong family values, as opposed to they were financing and directly benefiting from global imperialism and genocidal hyper exploitation, colonization, resource extraction. He's going to just say, nope, it's the strong family values. And black people, we can just have family values and not engage in any other parasitic imperialistic practices of the true trillionaires and billionaires and millionaires. So we can do capitalism.
Ain't no
we
way,
can
boy.
out Pope the Pope. We can out Muhammad, and we can out Adam Smith.
By the way, that was an accident. I didn't mean to. I just meant to load the video.
There is no way. I agree. I thought
ain't no way. Ain't no way.
Ain't no way. Ain't no way. We can have trillion-dollar companies and not.
Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Allies.
Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
So yeah, there is actually some work that he did with another person, and it's titled "On Government Programs That Increase Small Firms Access to Capital," and it's like some type of study in South Africa, supposedly. But it talked about how the government is heavily involved in the success or failure of investing in small businesses, right? And so this idea of, he knows for a fact you need a certain type of capital to be successful in business. So when he says Jared is talking whatever, and what does it mean that we don't have money, we just need hope? He himself would disagree with that, according to his work. And so even when you're just looking through his little catalog, he has this book out, How Black People Thrive in a Capitalist Society. And also in that video, he's saying all of us ain't gonna make it. Just gonna be a few of us, just the people who listen to me and Claude Anderson. That's about it. And so again, the idea is like he don't even have a solution for the collective of African people, which Jared is arguing to push, the conversation towards. But yeah, so the things that he's supposedly disagreeing with, he's not even fully disagreeing.
I haven't read this 3-page tome,
but just the opening,
a
right?
deep dive analysis. I mean, I know he said we should read Marx, but you know, but he does say so. It's, these papers first. He said these papers are linked in 3 ways. First, they both question the role that government can and should play in the development of small business. Second, they further study the link between small business subsidies and overall economic growth. Finally, assuming that government intervention is effective, they attempt to determine the most efficient allocation of scarce government resources. So it does seem to the comment addresses 2 interesting research projects in the field. The papers under discussion are Bradford. So they're not his papers. He's discussing the work of others at this conference. Apparently, it looks like these are proceedings that were published. But to your point, he seems to be, at least in 2007, acknowledging. But this is still when he was employed by the white man's university, so he hadn't fully broken
the one he
no longer wants to ally with. So it's important that he remind us that he got a degree from there and learned or taught there and studied under, I forgot this man's name, but it's also important that he distanced himself from them so that he can serve the people by charging them for work he could be giving them for free while taking resources from a more well-funded hostile institution. But the point I'm getting, I'm sorry, long form to get, is that he's seemingly in 2007 largely agreeing with one of the arguments I'm making, which is that this claim that buying power and black capitalism is self-sufficiency, autonomy, and sovereignty is really just a call for government, and probably should be a call for government assistance, because that's how all businesses thrive. Okay.
Also in that report, so he is a point where he's talking about the difference between legal formal firms and economically formal firms. And the economically formal firms are those possessing institutionalized processes that are more likely to lead to profitability. So he tells you the businesses that are connected to institutions, or i.e. the government, are the ones that are going to be more profitable, and the government choose those businesses based on their knowing that they're going to be profitable. So, for instance, if your ass got a barbershop, which a lot of the businesses, you're not about to get no government incentives and grants and stuff, and your wealth is not going to grow like the ones that will. And so, again, the arguments, even when I put another link in it, even this link, his 10 crack commandments or his 10 ways to build wealth, like, it's literally to people who people who don't read, people who've probably never studied any other things, and they depended on this guy with this white institution title to be able to be legit. So it's I think, I don't know what page he's down to the bottom, but is that it? Oh, keep on.
Yeah, so by the way, never mind the work of his that I've already cited in the Buying Power book, but I've now read more from him than he clearly has of any of my work just already.
There you go, right there.
So the 10 commandments of black economic empowerment.
Let's let Diallo debate against the 10 ways that black people.
All right, so number 1, never get all of your income from one source. Most people choose a job by asking themselves one simple question: how much money am I going to make? So by choosing a career path solely on how much money you'll make, you're missing the vast majority of all the benefits that come from choosing the right career. So multiple sources of income. Number 2, never go through life without adequate training and education. Running away from education effectively means that you're running right towards slavery. Okay, but I thought we're not supposed to get PhDs, because I thought.
Stay tuned. Once you get to number 10, he's going to contradict himself.
All right. Number 3, never allow yourself to become addicted to money. Don't become addicted to money. Number 4, never allow your self-esteem to be contingent upon validation from predominantly white institutions. One way that black people are consistently hypnotized by racist institutions is that we somehow concluded that we are more worthy than black people if white people like us. Number 5, avoid allowing yourself to go deep into debt. All right. Number 6, always save your money. Well, that would destroy the economy, but okay. Number 7, always think like an investor. Investing doesn't always relate to money. In fact, it rarely does. The most valuable resources we have in our lives relate to things that are non-financial, our health, happiness, freedom, relationships. All right. Number 8, find a way to own something. A small business or even a website. Own something that belongs to you. Number 9, never allow yourself to be infected with the disease of laziness. Laziness. Number 10, choose your mate and family situation wisely.
He got 11 too somewhere.
He got an 11. So the 10 commandments have an 11th. Avoid the legal system if at all possible. The legal, educational, and healthcare systems in America are the biggest financial drains. All right, so get an education, save your money, own something, and stay out of trouble. Don't get sick and don't get arrested.
Diallo, can you get wealth off of those or not? I mean, that's what y'all trying to say.
None of those things lead to wealth. Not one of them. I mean, there's some good advice there. There's some inane or irrelevant positions there, but none of that leads to wealth. How did she connect any of that to wealth? Because you can do all those things. I know many people that do all those things and don't have wealth. So how are those going to lead to wealth?
To be fair, the title of the piece is just
multiple
economic
streams
empowerment.
of income.
It's not.
But I thought it was the 10 commandments of
yeah,
again,
10 commandments of Black economic empowerment. So he could be defining that.
Again, okay, fine. How does it lead to economic empowerment?
You will be, well, one of the things he did say was, it's not all about money. He says, what's one thing Black people think of, one thing that you will do that you won't stop doing or you won't sell out for no type of money? He says, my afternoon naps are so important to me. You can't buy me out of that. So if he said you focus on things like your afternoon naps, eventually you become wealthy.
Then you get fired. I mean, listen, the whole thing, I think Diallo, look, I to your point about the pop-up earlier this week, I've never, I even said this to Boyce on Twitter. This is, I think, however I phrase it, this is, I think, the most disingenuous act I've ever experienced this directly, or that I can remember in this way. Like, I don't remember anybody being, there's this singular, like the epitome of treachery in my, at my workplace, but that I still hold as a separate category from this. I've never quite experienced something like this fake call out. I'm not reading your work. I'm going to use it to raise money and promote my classes, and then I'm going to come back with this, oh, he's trying to beef with me, and I'm just trying to stay above that, you know. By the way, that's what he that's what he told Jabari a couple years ago when he came to Baltimore, and Jabari tried to set up the debate. And it's this idea that if you say I disagree with you, that somehow I'm beefing like a rapper. I mean, come on, my guy. I'm saying read the work you're criticizing, as he sits up there like I ain't read it.
But did you catch him trying to make it seem like you would be argued with him for clout? Because like when he talked about that beef, and he was like, you don't have to basically beef with me to get seen or something like that. But he literally,
well, it's similar to what I've said to people who criticize me for this, just even after the show we did this the other day. On the one hand, this is, well, specific to what happened in terms of this week, whether it's Boyce directly misrepresenting my work or just in general, the mythology circulating, that's the point. So it's not me looking to beef or to keep the thing going. It's that my work is a response to the recirculation and the permanence, the persistence of the mythology. So that's the point. And yeah, I mean, to whatever, I mean,
he's a propagandist. What I see saturating his work, this notion, even in his list and what he said in the video, this notion of being of high moral character, having a high rate of personal discipline, strong family values, like the Rothschilds, is the source. And this is what the elites have been telling the peasants for centuries. That my wealth is not a product of exploitation. My wealth is not a product of theft. Don't be the disease of laziness. You can earn $1 billion. You can work to earn. If you're not lazy, you can earn. And he is, like I said, he's a propagator of myths. He's a propagator of myths, and he doesn't seek to unseat the parasites. He seeks to replace them. It's just the bottom line. And even people in the comments are talking about black businesses are different than white businesses. Like, if we could get black businesses in the community, then they'll behave differently than the white businesses have behaved in our community.
I think so like I told y'all before, when I was coming up, I did attend some seminary courses, and one of the first classes that they taught was homiletics. And it's like pretty much the art of preaching and how to like do call and responses and turn to your neighbor and all that shit like that. And I mean, he does that through the whole joint, along with having his, he said, you know how black women and men can get free, invest. And he called his wife in the space, and his wife is saying some stuff. And I mean, I remember Dr. Mayat's interview. He said, if you put me in a room with 10 black people who've gotten past their traumas and deal with their internal shit, I can show you how to make $1 million. But then again, his idea is when you don't make $1 million, it's your trauma. Just as well as the preacher said, when your ass don't get what you get, it's because you ain't tithing enough or you still sinning or whatever. So, I mean, he literally running the plays of homiletic preaching. And I mean, like you said, the people are mostly connected to his celebrity, and his celebrity came via him being on CNN and all these other places, like he said, but then also being able to, like your boy Tariq Nasheed and like Umar, we're going to talk about. There's something, right? I think we know this, obviously, but there's something that these people had a capacity to do, to come in and just pretty much act like the place is there. So this supposedly conscious community, nobody is asking questions, nobody digging or searching or grilling a person. There's no process of, I guess, vetting to see if they're for the people. And that's it. Like they in and then they stay. But I think Boyce in particular, I think he's losing that, or he lost that, and he's trying to get it back now. And I think this is his second lap around the block, kind of like Jay Morrison. Because Jay Morrison lost it, and now you see him grappling for straws. And it seems like Boyce doing that same thing. Because when I was in that chat, I saw it live. I actually, you know how people come in this chat and we call them haters, and they are whatever. I felt that way in the damn chat. Like it was like 3 people, maybe 3 people who kept commenting, and I'm like, ain't nobody listening to me, and they think I'm coming here to whatever, and I'm literally asking him about the words he's literally saying right now. But it didn't seem like there was a lot of people live there commenting, and then I think in terms of like the comments afterwards, I didn't even go see. A lot of times those be people who are literally saying stuff like, oh yeah, you got to believe and stuff like that. But also, like Willie D posts, I think sometimes Boyce posts get the same response where people are like, well, maybe you need to read his book. So maybe you got a larger fan base or supporters or readers than you think. But it seems like people are also coming into, or at least on Instagram, coming into asking them more questions or telling them.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative of that, and honestly, I am humbled and impressed by the responses. I mentioned it the other day, but he almost, I would say, at least from my view of it, it feels like well over 90% of the responses to him on Twitter and Instagram are critical.